Uh, I guess it was a debate. I don't know. Y'all bear with me for a couple seconds. I can't handle background music here. All right. I guess not. I don't have any more inputs. All right. I had a debate this morning about real estate versus the stock market. And what I found is when people debate which is better to invest in, there's either one or two things. Anybody that says the stock market is better to invest in knows, in my opinion, knows very little about real estate, or they have something to sell you. And I was investing in the stock market significantly. I mean, I not like major, but I had, half a million in the market. A little less than that. I think I had about 430 in the market, not half a million. And I ended up pulling it out. It was too volatile. And it was, I'm one of those people that believe that the stock market can be manipulated because the same people, no matter how bad it gets, seem to always be winning. But real estate is kind of a winner for me. Not kind of, I just say that to be polite. Real estate is a winner for me. So I want to get into that because people looking to invest in real estate need to know exactly what it is and how you actually get returns. And I think that TikTok and Instagram and all these other platforms have given a distorted view of what real estate investing is. As a matter of fact, they've almost made it into a kind of a get rich quick type situation, which it is not. And anyone who tries to imply that probably has something to sell you and is probably doing a lot of marketing. I don't do a lot of marketing because one, we're at the level now where we are at the ceiling for what we can accomplish based on our size, and we're transitioning. It's a scale up conversation. So you guys have heard me say that we're going to be the largest training platform in the country, and that is true. And our competition, there isn't much competition. Our competition, they all have end dates, and we don't. So somebody can come in with us and for 15% of what these other guys charge, and they can stay with us for as long as they need to and get all the education they need, not just the basic education, but based on their actual situation. And other companies aren't doing that, partly because it costs them too much to do it. I'm a real estate investor first. Most of you guys know my background. My name is Otis James. I'm a full-time real estate investor out of the San Francisco Bay Area. I'm a licensed real estate broker in California, licensed real estate broker in Georgia. I am not active. Well, my licenses are active, but I don't represent buyers and sellers. I only represent myself. I am a former mortgage broker. I spent about 13 years in mortgage finance while running a real estate brokerage. My corporate job was for the past or for over 2 decades, was the multifamily commercial industry and multifamily commercial industry. So I was overseeing about $650 million in multifamily commercial assets. I'm licensed in insurance. No, I am not in the insurance business. I don't sell it. I don't make any money dealing in insurance. I got licensed in it because I use it to leverage for real estate and so I can speak intelligently about it. I went ahead and got my insurance license. I was a former notary public. I had a national notary signing agency. On the non-real estate related side, I took just under $600 and created a company utilizing an outsourcing business model that went on to generate seven figures. Uh, I've been exposed to real estate my entire life. We didn't have babysitters. You guys hear this all the time. Those have been following me for any time. We didn't have babies. Oh, it's my dad's birthday today. I got to call him. We didn't have babysitters when, when I was coming up. Well, I went to work with my dad. So, I was 3 years old listening to, these real estate meetings and, it's kind of been in my DNA ever since. I'm a long-term hold investor. I founded the Four Data Points Academy out of necessity. I've been teaching real estate in some capacity for years, but I didn't realize that the demand was so high for real estate education until I started getting on these social platforms about 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. And the reason that I started the Four Data Points Academy was because it was being taught in a way that was very, very misleading. And they were just, it seemed like just random people were waking up thinking that they can teach real estate. And I saw some people getting mistreated and taken advantage of. So I developed a basic program a few years ago, and the demand was higher than I anticipated. So we ended up scaling that up. It was under the name James Street Capital, which was my investment company. And I ended up having to branch off and birth the Four Data Points Academy. And the Four Data Points Academy is a real estate investing training platform that stems from four questions. And the four questions are: what does it cost? What does it cost to fix up? What's it going to be worth when I'm done? How much income can it generate? Four questions, because four questions is simple enough for anybody to grasp over time. And once they've mastered those four questions, then everything on top of that is far easier to learn. Those four questions also force people to focus what's important at the time, on what's important at the time, and it forces people to take the emotional component of real estate investing away. All right. So, what does it cost? What does it cost to fix up? What's it going to be worth when I'm done? How much income can it generate? That is week one. If you can't master that, then we don't go ahead of that, because I don't want to overwhelm people. And I believe that, sometimes you need to teach somebody something more than once, sometimes twice, sometimes 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times. And I believe when you teach them the 10th time, you need to teach it with the same enthusiasm you had on the first time. Another component of, Four Data Points Academy is we don't have an end date. So we do have a structured curriculum, and we're always adding new lessons, and there's always continued education. But we started it to create real estate investors. And if we just had a program where you start and then you finish, there's no guarantee you're going to be a real estate investor. It just doesn't work like that. The world will try to make you believe you can learn, enough in a few months to go out there and be successful. But what a lot of people are trying to do is they just take a bunch of information that's really readily available, and they sell it to you. And it just, I don't understand how how they how there's any longevity in that. So I've been giving away all the information for free on these different platforms. You can come up, you can ask any question you want, any scenario, any challenge, because when people call me, they've already gone and tried to do it themselves. They understand all the different variables involved with these different real estate transactions. And they soon find out that there's far more ways to make money in real estate investing than just flipping homes. So when they call me, we don't have to do sales calls or anything like that. They're usually already on board for the most part. So we're trying to grow, and we're trying to let more people know who we are. And the more people that know who we are, the more opportunities I can create for our real estate family. Now, it's not just a real estate mentorship program. It is, it's a community. So within the community, we do a lot of things that we don't put on our brochure. I'll form groups with people in our community, and we'll go do a project, or I'll have an opportunity and I'll allow people in our community to participate and make some money on this opportunity. They benefit the most. Some of these opportunities I break even on, but it's a good learning component. And, for somebody that may not have the resources to invest on their own right now, it gives them the opportunity to be a part of something, get experience, and get some documented experience, so that when they are in a position to do something 100% on their own, then they've already got the experience. They can typically get better terms. What's up, Courtney? Steph, how you doing? Steph on
I'm
Clubhouse.
doing great, Otis. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm just somebody's dad trying to figure it out. That's my new. That's what I've been reduced to. I'm just somebody's dad trying to figure out all these buttons. What brings you up?
I
Where
like
you where
that.
you from, Steph?
I like that. I am in upstate New York. I'm a commercial real estate broker, and I specialize in multifamily, affordable housing, and student housing.
Oh well,
So
ooh,
I've been doing that about 10 years.
look, I just trapped you. See, now I got you trapped up here.
What?
Now you
Now
can't
I'm
go.
stuck. I love it.
I love multifamily commercial. It's in my DNA. I'm not married to. You guys know I'm not married to any type of investing strategy. I'm not married to any particular way of doing things. I always go where the money is, and I follow the path of least resistance. And my goal for everybody is, learn the residential stuff, but the road to wealth is a lot shorter going through multifamily commercial. So I just a lot of people aren't ready for that yet, because it may seem overwhelming, but you're a lot closer to being able to invest in multifamily commercial than you think. It just takes some guidance, and once you understand how to underwrite some of these multifamily deals, then you start looking at the world through a different set of lenses. And so again, that's another benefit of not having an end date. When people come into 4 Data Points Academy, I don't call it a mentorship program. I really do call it a real estate family for a reason. And if you know anybody that is rocking with us, they will tell you why. But when they come in, my goal for them is not just to teach them how to invest in real estate. It's to teach them the fundamentals, then teach them the residential real estate investing, world, and then teach them how to make money outside of that, right? Maybe lending on projects, and then teach them how to scale up to multifamily commercial, not multifamily residential, folks. Multifamily residential is 2 to 4 units. Multifamily commercial is 5 units and above. And then teach them how to add business models to their real estate investing so they can continue to, make revenue streams surrounding real estate. And then once they get to that level, now we have to incorporate some other things. Like, if the road to wealth is very lonely if you're miserable, right? So we're branching into personal development. And although I would love to think I'm qualified to teach personal development, I am not. I am working with a gentleman by the name of Dr. Alfred Smith. That is, we developed a program. It's not rolled out yet, but it is leadership, sales training, and I call it personal development, but it's really working on your self-image and attacking all those limiting beliefs. I'll do it no justice, right? I don't want to sound like a brochure. So we're branching off into that, and we're also branching off into entrepreneurship. And entrepreneurship is more than just real estate investing, obviously, right? Though the goal is to learn how to invest in real estate and then possibly have a real estate investing business you can step away from, entrepreneurship encompasses everything. So our first big event is in Colombia, Medellin, in the first week of Q4. So October 1st through October 6th, we have a villa. Everybody is going to be in the villa. I'm going to take away all the distractions. And at 4 o'clock every day, we are going to tap out and we're going to enjoy the city of Medellin. Room and board is obviously included in the villa. And I have a private chef coming in to take care of all of our food for the entire week. And I'm flying in consultants for every aspect of what is commercial triple net. Oh, here we go. Commercial triple net is my favorite type of lease, but I'll get to that in a second. So I'm flying consultants in. So somebody looking to start a business, they don't have to go and do all these consultations over the next few months to come up with their blueprint. I'm flying experts in to tackle every aspect of business, from SOPs and processes and systems to automations to legal structure, all of that. So it's going to be done in 1 week. That's called Venture U. We're not marketing that yet. There's only 16 spaces, but if anybody wants more information about that, reach out to me and I'll go ahead and get you squared away. What's up, Tiara? Tiara. So like I mentioned before, we're on TikTok too, and we're building up our new TikTok page. And when you're building up a new TikTok page, sometimes you do a live and you're only talking to like yourself for the first 15 minutes. So we're overcoming that that challenge right now. That being said,
well, I got a question for you if you want to get some grease the wheels.
Let's go.
All right. I'm very familiar with your rooms. I think the 4 Data Points is brilliant. I actually use this kind of thing. I've been using this kind of thing a lot. I got my start on bigger pockets. I deal a lot with new investors, small time, people just getting started.
Yes.
That's why I love your program, is because people start there and there's really no limit to what they can do. I have so many clients over 10 years that I've seen grow to massive. A kid started with me in Binghamton, bought a single family, lived in it, slept on the floor while he renovated it, and now he owns half of Allentown, Pennsylvania student housing. And it's amazing to see that kind of growth. And he's essentially using this method that you've developed, right? It's phenomenal. So I have everything from live-in house hackers buying with FHA 203K all the way up to, massive multifamily development, mixed-use commercial. But my question for you this morning is this. Most of my folks exist in the 10 to 20 unit world, and I'm seeing a lot of drive for people to start getting into syndication, REITs, and larger structure on strictly multifamily, particularly student housing. Do you have? I know this is maybe a little higher level than you normally like to do for the intro rooms, but I'm curious what your thoughts are on that. What is the way for a medium-sized investor once they're established and they're rocking and rolling a little bit? How do they move into that next world?
Yeah. So syndication is regulated by the SEC. I mean, I know you know, but for everybody else, it's heavily regulated. And when you're doing syndication, there's a bit more risk, and it helps to understand the operation side of multifamily commercial when you're getting into syndication. And for you realtors out there, syndicate, we have our continued education every 4 years to renew our license. I take syndication literally every single time I have to renew my license. I think if you want to compete on that level with those type of folks, I think it takes a certain personality type to do that. I'm not the type of person that likes to ask for money. So raising capital for me is just, it's not, I just don't like to do it. My approach is a little bit different. Syndication has far bigger payouts. You can make a lot more money in syndication. If I was going to do syndication tomorrow, the first thing I would do is bring in consultants, because I don't do it often enough to be well versed at it. And just like I approach any other area of real estate that I haven't done in a while or have limited experience in, I bring in consultants. We come up with a plan, then we go ahead and do it. It is not cheap. Just to position yourself for syndication, you better have $50,000 to $70,000 just for all the paperwork and getting set up. Depending on the type of syndication that you're doing, you better have an attorney on your team, all right? Because if you go off the rails, compliance wise, there can be some significant consequences. So, and I don't compete. Once you start talking about syndication, that's typically when you get up to the 100 units and above. Now you could syndicate a single family home technically, but the people that you're competing with at that level are very well capitalized. Many of them are institutional investors, and I've worked with a lot of those guys. And it's just not an environment that I want to be in, because I just don't get a lot of fulfillment from it. And I'm already past the point where money is the thing that brings me fulfillment. What brings me fulfillment is I like the creative part of real estate investing. For example, if there was a distressed 50-unit apartment building, it's almost like putting a puzzle together for me. How can I acquire that apartment building with the least amount of resources? And I like teaching those things. But keep in mind, my background. I I got into teaching real estate. I was in development meetings with different municipalities. And for those that don't know, I'm a long-term hold investor, but I consult on development projects. And typically these meetings, there's, a few people in these meetings. Most of the time it's like the mayor, depending on the size of the city. It's the mayor, you got city council, you got some bank presidents or VPs, somebody from the land bank. You typically have somebody from building department there, and maybe a couple other one-offs. And I would sit in these meetings, and people would be getting really, really excited about the money and the profitability and all these things. And I would be sitting in the back, and no one ever, everybody was, you can always see when you can always see when people are sizing you up, because I'm very, very quiet, and I guess my energy is, I don't care if this thing works or not. I don't have a I'm getting paid. The more profitable it is, the more money I make, but I really don't care. My concern was always for the people that this was going to impact, that weren't going to make any money off this thing, and whose living situation was going to be a lot worse. So I just never got excited about syndication. There's nothing wrong with syndication. I know people that do syndication that they love it. That's all they'll do. They say, I'll never go back to the type of real estate investing I was doing before. And that's their personality type. I think the great thing about real estate investing, one of the great things, is that you can kind of find your niche and then just go with it. And if you get burned out, you can enter a different aspect of real estate investing. So it really depends on, Steph. I think it's just personality type, right? And I think
Yeah,
that,
that's an awesome answer. I'm wondering, what do you recommend instead? So if somebody owns a 20-unit building, let's say, and they're sitting on some equity because they bought it with value add, they stabilized it, they put in tenants. What's the route that you recommend for launching somewhere else? Is it sort of a standard 1031 or restructuring their financing? What do you recommend folks do?
yeah, I probably wouldn't do a 1031, because I'm big on building up a portfolio. But you mentioned value add. So if it was value add, I would take that some of that equity out and buy another cash flowing asset, another 20-unit building or another 30-unit building. And I think once you've got a portfolio big enough, then you can start getting into the bigger developments, but without having to syndicate, because now you've got the resources to solidify your equity position. You don't have to raise any of that capital. So I would go that way if it was me personally. Again, I think it's a matter of preference. That would take a lot longer, obviously, but the example you gave, they're already pretty well established and they're looking to scale up in asset class. Well, it's not really scaling up in asset class, asset size, right? But I would probably just go, I'd buy another 20 unit building because it's not a taxable event, right? There's no capital gains conversation. And then keep doing that to where I've got enough equity to where I don't have to raise capital for a down payment on a much bigger project. But I would also encourage that. So I would I would go vertically integrated. I would do exactly what I just said, but I would also
Right.
start my own property management company. And then you know, once I've got that off the ground, I would probably look at purchasing all of the peripheral businesses that support multifamily, like, you know, HVAC, you know, plumbing company, an electrical company. I would get into those things because those can be profitable even outside of real estate. And so the entrepreneurial mind kicks in at this point, right? When you have the resources. But syndication for me, I don't find it exciting. You know, I don't find tax deeds exciting too, but there's a lot of people making money doing it. So anyway.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you. That really confirmed. I don't know a ton about syndication. I know the basics, and I actually have a couple of situations that people are looking that way. And your answer confirms for me what I thought, which is this is just not going to be right for these two people in this situation. So yeah, that's awesome. Wow, thank you so much.
No, thank you. That's a good question. That's a good question. And I'm trying to get my, you know, I've got three people. So I mentor 350 people, and I've been mentoring people directly in this on this format for about going on 4 years. And I'm just starting to see the people that started with me in the beginning really start to elevate, you know, up to the 25 doors and 27 doors and 30 doors. And I've had the same conversation with them, and they've started, you know, starting businesses or acquiring businesses to help support their entire real estate investing journey. Like one of my students, he bought they have a real estate company now, and now they have a contractor company, right? Contracting company. So now they're seeing really just how far they can really take it, right? But I always manage people's expectations when they get into real estate investing because Steph, some of the marketing surrounding real estate investing, it tries to convince people that they can start where your established clients are already, and
Yep.
that is not the case. Um, I had a woman ask me; she was shopping around for mentorship, and and I always get nervous when I have a call with somebody that doesn't know me or what we do or my company, you know, or the people, you know, involved, because you know, I'm the worst salesman on the planet, folks. You know, not I can sell for other people, but you know, for me, I'm the worst salesman on the planet. I don't like trying to convince somebody how much they need me. It's like being in a relationship, and you always got to convince your partner, you know, of your value, and it rubs me the wrong way. But anyway, I love these conversations because I'm not. I don't. This isn't the only way I support myself. So, you know, if somebody joins our real estate family or they don't, my quality of life does not change at all. And I thought that was going to hurt me at one point, but that's really what a lot of people gravitate towards, which is why we grew so much quicker than we had anticipated. This young lady was shopping around, and the first two people that she spoke to, they asked her, it's typically the same sales questions, right? I've been through that. I've picked apart everybody else's business model. I know what it is. So what they do is they say, well, how much money do you need to per month to support the lifestyle you want? She said, well, I need to make $30,000 a month. And both of them said, oh, absolutely. Yes, we can do that. Right. And that's where the conversation stopped for her. There was no managing expectations. She's new. She's not a real estate investor. And when people are brand new, they don't always know what questions to ask. So she called me. I was her third. So she goes, hey, you know, I'm just kind of shopping around and I heard your name kind of floating through the community. So I wanted to call and just kind of see what your company was about. And she shared her expectations. She said, you know, I talked to two other people and they were pretty much on board with my expectations of being able to make, you know, $30,000 a month. And I asked her, I said, did they explain how that $30,000 a month would come about? They said no, or she said no. I said, okay, well, did they explain how long it would take you to get $30,000 a month? They said no, but one of them alluded to probably, up to 2 years, they could probably accomplish that. I said, I can't do that for you. I can't have you making $30,000 a month in 2 years. It's not possible. It's not possible based on where you are now. If I lost everything and had to build it up tomorrow, I could make $30,000 a month in less than 2 years. But let me explain. I went into detail with her. I said, let's imagine that you have a $30,000 house in a neighborhood where nicer houses are selling for $100,000. Now your house is 30 grand because it probably needs another $30,000 worth of work. And let's assume that if you decide to keep the house, it'll rent for $1,000. So now I'm getting into the four data points. What does it cost? 30,000. What does it cost to fix up? Another 30,000. What's it going to be worth when I'm done? 100,000. How much income can it generate? $1,000. I say, so let's say you borrow everything to buy it, and then you borrow everything, all the money to fix it up. You're all in 60,000. I'm not including points and fees because for sake of this conversation, and you got to pay back this 60,000 because where you borrowed it from, that's expensive money. But now your house is worth 100 grand, and you do your cash out refinance, right? Lenders will typically give you 80% of the value on a cash out refinance after you get a tenant in there. So you're pulling out 80, you owe 60, you pocket 20. That $20,000 that you just pocketed is active, okay? But that new mortgage, let's say it costs you about $700 a month, principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. You're pocketing $300 a month because it costs you $700 a month to own the property, and it makes $1,000 a month. So when that's all said and done, and you've walked away, you still own the property, but now you're focused on something else. You made $20,000, and then you made $300 that first month. Okay. Now let's talk about how long it took you to do that. It took you 30 days to close on the house. Let's say it took you 6 weeks. Let's say it took you 6 weeks to rehab it and 2 weeks to get it leased. Right. So you're already in 3 months. Now this is just now you got to do your cash out refinance. Now that you got a tenant in there, that's about another, let's call it another month. So now you're in 4 months. Okay. 4 months. Even if you had a deal right after that, time limits you within that year to doing 3 of those. And in those 3, you've made, best case scenario, let's assume it's all apples for apples. You made 20,000 on each, and they all cash flow $300 a month. And then I broke it down to her. I said, so time, you don't have enough experience to do multiple projects at one time right off the bat. And I'm not even incorporating the learning component of it, because when people come in with me, I don't care if it's day one. If they got an opportunity, I will hold their hand through the opportunity because I think that's a better learning opportunity than sitting behind a Zoom screen on live classes, right? So time won't allow you to make $30,000 a month within the time frame that you specified. Also, $20,000 that you got was active. The $300 a month you get is passive. And I already know without you telling me that the $30,000 you wanted to make a month, you wanted it to be passive. Otherwise, you just created another job for yourself, which is okay while you're building up your portfolio. So how many $300 a month is it going to take to accumulate $30,000 a month? She was like, yeah, you're right. You're right. Okay, I can see. I can see what you mean by that. So I told her this. I said, but look, I will teach you how to make $10,000 a month, and some of it's going to be active. And we're talking about averaging it over the year, right? Some of it's going to be active. And then once you master that, then we can scale up an asset class so you can actually see what it takes to get to $30,000 a month. You need more doors, right? And then I'll teach you the value add component, not just as it pertains to residential. I'll teach it to you as it pertains to multifamily commercial. And then you can see how you can really scale it up fast. And let's say it takes more than 2 years. Well, you're still going to be with me. We don't have an end date. Let's say it takes 5 years. Well, yeah, you're still going to be with me. We don't have an end date. Let's say it takes 10 years. You guys know where I'm going with that, right? So, I forgot how I even got on that story, but my point is a lot of people's expectations based on the marketing that they see out there, those people are more interested in swiping your credit card. And then I hate saying that because, but it's just the world we live in. And when people come to me, a lot of them, 60% of the people that have come to us, they came from other programs. And the only complaint was, I didn't know about you first. That's it. That's the only complaint that they have with us. So, really trying to educate people. And part of the reason that I do these live streams and I do the Clubhouse, I don't schedule any rooms on Clubhouse anymore. I'll just do the pop-ups, is so people can educate themselves, not just on whether or not they want to be a real estate investor, but if you don't know what real estate investing really entails, how do you know whether you want to be one or not? And I'm also very transparent about the bad parts of it, right? The good.
Otis, I got to say, that's one of the things I love about your rooms is that you are very transparent about it. And I remember my husband and I owned a contracting company. I was a licensed agent. And our first flip we did with $0. We partnered with it was actually one of my husband's property management clients. And he said, hey, maybe there's an opportunity here. You guys are contractors. Let's buy a property. I dropped my commission as low as I could without, messing up my broker.
Yes.
So we got the house pretty cheap and all this. And we expected a 3-month rehab. It took us 9. We had a deal structure at the end where we put $0 in and we were going to take 25% of the profit after a small salary. And so the salary we got was $30,000 to flip the house, which was like pretty darn good. And then we were going to take 25%. So we sold the house for significantly more. It turned out well, but my husband and I broke even.
Yes.
It was such a bummer. And like we had a brand new baby and we devoted 9 months. Like he didn't do anything else. We took out credit cards to make ends meet. And that was our first flip. And it was just, that's paying tuition, right? We learned exactly what to do and what not to do. We learned exactly how to estimate our time. We learned exactly how to estimate materials and labor and all of this because we're used to doing it for our own company, but not on a flip.
Yes.
So one of the reasons that I'm such a big fan of your spaces is it is so easy once you've been through something like that, pulling out credit cards to make your first investment work and feeling like at the end of that, you're at a crossroads. Am I going to do another one? Am I going to keep doing this or am I just done? Right. And your spaces, you're very honest about that, the grit that it takes to keep going and the payoff that can happen, but the tuition you got to pay to get there. And that's one of the reasons that I love hearing you talk about this is you're very hopeful and you're very optimistic, but you're very realistic. And that story that you just told is a great example.
Amen. And you know what? I like how you extracted the value from that experience because there's some things that are going to go bad, right? They're either going, look, you got a few options. They can go bad today. They can go bad tomorrow. You can pick one, but something is going to go bad as a real estate investor. And I've had to coach some of my students through dealing with some of those things. We had a situation where I had one student, we had this contractor who was well recommended. We actually saw some of this contractor's work. And so my student hired this contractor and we were supporting, my student in managing the process. One day the contractor just disappears, period. Just disappears. Right. So we have to, just gone. Now I'm very protective of the people that are in my circle, right? I hate the word student because, some of these folks are more brilliant than I am. But I'm very protected. I really wanted to hurt this person. Like I wanted to hurt this person. And we had to scramble to get new contractors in. We had to bring in outside investors to fill some of the gaps. And because my student wouldn't know what to do, they would have been dead in the water. So we were scrambling and trying to get this thing done. And for my student, I was explaining to her like, look, these things just happen. The less emotional attachment you have to the good and the bad. I don't get excited about the good stuff either. Right. It is what it is. And, we dove in and looked at everything that happened. We looked at the contract. I ended up, showing her and kind of leading her through the process of taking this guy to court. And, I think, and it got to the point, like we were looking for this guy. His wife didn't even know where he was. And then he popped up on Instagram in some Cancun or something on a jet skis, and it was just a horrible experience. But but the value of it, I'm like, look, it is so important to have these experiences when you're starting out, because if you have these when you've already scaled up and you've never gone through it and you haven't developed from it, then it could hurt you a lot more in the long run. And it takes some thick skin. Like, we have some really easy wins too. We have some easy wins. I've had investments where um, I brought in some of my students on a project, and the instead of using, a hard money lender for the rehab, I would just say, hey, who wants to come in on this, and I'll give you guys 10% flat fee. It'd probably be about 90 days, and they'd come in, and things went a lot faster than we had anticipated, and we had some people come in and that made like 20% in like 8 days. Like, there's some wins, right? Like, we gave a flat fee, 10%, and then we needed some more. And then the last investors, we offered 20%. It was a lower amount. So in 8 days, I think one person gave like $20,000. And then 8 days later, I wrote them a check for the $20,000 plus 20%, or plus 5, whatever it was. But there's some easy wins out there, but you got to take it all in stride, right? Don't get too excited when it gets good. Don't get too down on yourself when it gets bad. One of the things I focus on when I'm training people is not, hey, let's see how much money we can make right off the bat. It's mitigating risk and underwriting deals, right? Making sure that these deals actually pencil out. Part of the reason is, I'm 49 years old, but I've got some people in our real estate family that are, 70 years old, 75 years old. They cannot lose and recover like somebody in their 20s, right? So we have to be very, very careful about how conservative we are with certain type of investing. Maybe we'll do a project. Maybe it's a $50,000 house. We'll put 20,000 in and sell it for 120, right? Minus points and fees. Now, nobody's getting rich doing that, but that's a significant amount of money with relatively low risk if you run the 4 data points. And by the way, folks, when you hear the 4 data points, this has been around since the beginning of real estate. The 4 data points is I just chose to pick certain areas of focus to help you accomplish what you need to accomplish as a beginner. Like, when we start underwriting these multifamily commercial deals, they've been doing the 4 data points. They just don't call it that, right? They want to know what it costs or what they're willing to pay. They want to know what's it going to cost to improve. They're going to want to know what it's going to be worth when they're done. And they're going to want to know how much income it can generate. So when you answer those questions, it's your ability to interpret those answers to let you know whether this is in your buy box or not. That's important. That's the whole point of it. So I appreciate you, Steph, when you said I developed this. Part of me was like, yeah, I should take credit for the whole but yeah, it's just
naming it is half the battle, right? Because as you're teaching somebody else to do this, I think that it's absolutely crucial that you put this into a very digestible formula. Amen. Because people, it's as you say, people do this who are experienced, but they don't realize they're doing this. Yes. People call me and say, hey, I need an ARV on this property, and for someone who's not an active client with me, I charge for that. Yeah. And I know exactly what they're doing. Yep, I'll run your ARV exactly the way you need it. I'll give you your rent comps. Like, it's as you say, people learn that. But the amazing thing about what you're doing is you lay out that, like, it may take someone 10 years to realize that's the formula to streamline this. And so when you're laying it out for someone who's new, that's the value. The value is not necessarily that you invented it. It's that you are making it highly accessible.
Amen. You know what, Steph? You go. I'm gonna take you everywhere I go. You and your husband. I'm taking y'all everywhere I go.
Perfect.
Every time I say something, I'm gonna have you clean it up.
Fun places. No, I think that's it. I mean, I love new investors. New investors are my favorite area to work in. My large multifamily are cool, but the new investors are fun. The guy who wants to come along to a small upstate town and tackle like a historic rehab, that's my jam. I want to be on that project every day. I want to see exactly what they're doing. And that's the kind of thing that takes grit. We're talking about the mistakes that you make. One thing that I think is really beautiful is when you make those mistakes up front for exactly the reason you said. When you've got higher stakes and you think you're cruising along and suddenly your contractor disappears for the first time, you're in some trouble. But what's really amazing is when you do this stuff early and you're flipping your first single family, or whatever, you're buying it, you're renovating it, you're going to hold it, and your contractor disappears. One of the greatest values in that situation is you learn you can survive it. Yes. And I think that's what's crucial about having a community around you is when that happened to us, we didn't have the community of investors. Yeah. We were like, what do we do? Our investor is screwed. We're screwed. We have this new baby. It was just like a rough situation, right? We're living in my in-laws' garage that we renovated. Like it was just a scary situation. And what we learned is that we could survive it. We did it. We made it, right? And that was what gave us the grit later. I almost don't. I mean, I do remember because I paid a lot of attention, but it's not as important the dollar amount that you came out of that first experience with. What's important is that you gain the realization that you can survive it. You have a community around you of people who say, yes, I've been through that before. I have survived this also. Here's what we do next. And that's a recipe for a great investor who's got that grit.
Amen. Amen. And you know what you know what all the bad things are a great cure for? Imposter syndrome. Let me explain what I mean by that, right? Because once you get to the promised land, you feel like you deserve to be there, right? I've had the thing that hurt me the most is making a lot of money in a very short amount of time with very little effort. You guys know you guys always in my intro. You guys heard me say I took $585 and went on to generate a company created a company that generated 7 figures in the short time that I had it. That was a fluke. I outsourced everything, right? And I probably spent like 2 hours a month, maybe 2 to 4 hours a month working with that company because everybody else was doing all the work. It's, outsourcing, right? And same thing with 4 Data Points Academy. We didn't make a whole lot of money up front because that's not why we got into it, but we got really big, really, really fast. And when those things happen, you lose the opportunity to develop into the person or entrepreneur or business person that you need to be to adequately manage that type of financial situation. And, for me, that the business I was referring to at first, the $585 business, we'll call it, I just stopped that because I just didn't like the industry or the type of people that I was dealing with. Not that they were bad people. It just started feeling like a job. So I was like, I'll do something else. So I ended up, selling that company. And later, after the company went to shambles, I bought it back. Why would I buy back a company that went to shambles? Because it has the history and the credit. So I'm able to leverage that. So I ended up buying that company back, and now I use it as a referral service. Anyway, I won't get into all that, but it's all of these lessons are so valuable when you get to a certain point. You realize, oh, my confidence is built, and you're not shaken as easily, right? When things go bad on a project, people commented, I guess both, right? Like, how do you keep your cool on when some of this stuff is going bad? Because keep in mind, folks, when you mentor 350 people, and I'm going to go back into the chat and get to some of the questions in a second, but when you mentor 350 people, your problems are their problems. Actually, I got that backwards. Their problems are your problems. And there's been some times where I could not sleep at night because of that, right? And it was an enormous amount of stress for me, because one, it's branding, right? So obviously everybody's situation is not going to be perfect 100% of the time, but it's my goal to make it perfect. And when it's not, and a lot of you guys are going through this as entrepreneurs, when it's not, you take on that stress. I'll give you an example. We have a project, and it penciled out beautifully, right? Penciled out beautifully. And you talk about the perfect storm of things going wrong. So it's a mixed use building. And I gave some of my students the opportunity we went on it. I actually found the building because I thought it would be a great learning opportunity. So I said, all right, who wants to go in on this? It's not very expensive. It's probably $500,000. I think it was 535. And we'll come in, we'll put 20% down, and then we'll add some units, and then we'll cash out. We'll burn method the building. So I get in, and mind you, I'm taking all the liability because they're positioned as lenders. So they're not, just like a lender's they're not assuming all the risk. I'm assuming all the risk. They're only risking what they put in, right? But I'm obligating myself to this building. So if it goes bad, I'm on the hook, right? So we get in, there was already a contractor in place. Everything looked good. I just happened to have my architect and structural engineer come out and look at some of the things that this contractor was suggesting as far as what they were going to do. Because, yeah, sometimes folks, that feeling you get where I don't know what it is. I just can't put my finger on it. Something ain't right. So I kept, I kept looking at this project, and something told me to bring in my architect and structural engineer. And I'll fast forward. They weren't 100% confident that the first floor was built to have another floor on top of it. So, but the initial contractor said, no, it can't, we can. So just, we can, if we move forward, we can, don't worry, it's all good. Now, and first of all, that's the Holy Spirit that'll do that, by the way. Because so I had a choice to
Yep.
make. Amen. I had a choice to make. I could go ahead and do it. Look, I got my students is invested. Like, I can't, there's a lot of pressure. This thing has to work, right? So we ended up having to pause, go back to the original plans, which all of a sudden nobody could find, right? That nobody would find. I had to track down the original architect, and he was like, yeah, we did the plans, but they didn't pay us. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I guess it's good we didn't have those plans, because we would have had to start over anyway. Now the rehab is going to be a lot more expensive, because we have to make it so that the second floor is reinforced and there's no issues. Well, during that time, I'm sure you guys remember, what do you think was happening to interest rates in 2022? They were going up, and then they went up again, and then they went up again, and then they went up again. So I was like, well, shoot, the cost of money is now too expensive. So when we do our refinance, it's not based on our original plans, it's not going to generate enough income to service the debt. So I had to go back to my architect and say, we're going to have to add more units. So he did the plans to add more units, but now things just started getting worse. Interest rates kept going up. One of the tenants moved out. There was major repairs that needed to be done. It was just one thing after another after another. So basically, I've had to carry this building from 2022 until now. And now the building is worth less than we bought it for. And I'm talking to my investor friends, and they're like, I would bankrupt that entity. Why do you have a non-performing asset? You're taking a $3,000 a month net loss, and you got to come out of pocket because you can't get the financing to improve it. That's got to come from earned income or your other and all that. And I was like, well, I got my students involved in it. So by the time we get out of this project, my students won't be hurt, but I'll be in, $150,000 of hard cash, probably even more than that I'm not going to get back. Right. So the amount of stress that caused, I didn't care about the 150, 200, that, whatever that, I didn't care about that. I cared about the person that invested $5,000, because that person, that $5,000 may have been all they had. Or, I got all these stories made up in my head about, in my mind, everybody's going through a hardship and they were able to finally save up their life savings. And, I'm very, very hard on myself when it comes to that. But that is real estate investing. And those are some of the things that just happen. When it happens to me, I'm fine with it. But when other people are involved that haven't been exposed to that, I've lost sleep, like significant sleep. And it was tough. When I say lost sleep, like I would lay in the bed and I couldn't literally, my eyes would I just stare up at the ceiling. I think one night I was like, Lord. And then everything was going. I had a third of my tenants had moved out. I had to evict some people, and some of them had been there for 5 years, and it was $25,000 to get the house back to where it needed to be. And somebody stole an AC unit, a $9,000 AC unit I just put in on another. Like, when I tell you things it was the perfect storm of things going wrong. I was like, look, I was sitting on the porch one day and I saw the mailman come and deliver the mail. I was looking at him like, oh, that job looks so peaceful. I wonder if they hiring down there at the post office. But I needed it. And staff, I'm sure in your space, you deal with those things all the time, right? It's just, it is what it is. But now it's like, there's no fear. My solution is always, okay, well, just make more money. And because I went through that stress, it forced me to dig deep and say, okay, I need to go create something. I need to go create some opportunities for some folks, right? And what I did was I started putting these groups together within our real estate family, because some of those people invested in that project. So I wanted to create something where they can get some of that money back. They're still invested in that project, but I wanted to create opportunities for them to at least make some money so I could sleep at night, right? And some of these projects I broke even on. Like I didn't. So what? How it was I would find a flip and just manage the entire flip, right? The financing, the contractors, everything, and they would put in, and I would give them 90% of the profits. Okay, I take $5,000 acquisition fee because I gotta fly back out. I gotta fly out there and so I give them 90% of the profits. But if we come too close to breaking even, then I forfeit my 10%. So they get 100% of the profits if we come too close to breaking even. Now, why do I do that? There's no cash benefit for me to do that, right? But the effect that it has and the impact that it's had on my students makes it worth it. Some of the things that benefit us don't always show up on my financials, but creating opportunities is one of the things that brings me fulfillment. So all of these things tie together: the struggle, the good, and all that. It's just part of the I call it the seasoning process, right? I call it the seasoning process. And you guys will go through it too if you guys are want to be real estate investors. Now let me go. I'm gonna go back to these. I'm gonna go back to these questions real quick. So I'm on Clubhouse. We're live stream. We're on TikTok and some other places, Instagram and Facebook and all that. So let me go back up. Let me see. What is a commercial triple net? So a commercial triple net lease is a lease where they take care of the property taxes, maintenance, and the actual lease. They cover everything. It's what a triple net lease is. For those of you that are in our real estate family, if you guys want to learn more about types of commercial leases, there's a lesson. You guys, I'm pretty sure you guys already have it, but there's a lesson called types of commercial leases. Yes, applause for the creativity for naming the lessons. All right. Commercial triple net. All right. Taxes, insurance, CAMs. So CAMs are common area expenses. All right. They basically take care of everything. It was your discernment. Amen. Chaz was appreciate that. Steps. Oh, she just got a show on. Hope y'all are still here when I'm done. Amen. Otis, that's real talk. I've been there. I've run 2 businesses with employees, and I'm an elected official. I've looked at my friends with a cool job, and I was like, y'all hiring? Oh man, but you know what? You know what? It is to have control over your time is there's just something about that, man. Like being able to just move the way you want to move. And I was talking about this yesterday. Having a regular job, like a 9 to 5 job, we call it a W-2 job in the mortgage industry, wage earner, right? There's nothing wrong with that. I do not encourage people to leave their jobs to jump into real estate investing. I tell them, look, try it. I'll teach you how to invest in real estate while you work your job. I'll teach you how to invest from a distance while you work your job. Our education is flexible. We only do classes in the evenings so you can work your job. When people say, look, I just need to have a leap of faith and just jump into it. No, it does not work like that. It really does not work like that. It's not about faith. It's about being smart, right? Because you can have enough faith to land you right into bankruptcy, right? So we come up with transition plans for people when they want to get into real estate investing. And for the record, I don't think you should leave your job until you're making so much outside of your job that it costs you money to stay at your job. Amen. Some of us got kids and priorities and all these other things. That stuff has to come first. And if real estate investing is stressful enough. And if you just jump into real estate investing, you don't want the added stress of wondering if you're going to be able to support your family. That stress will spill over into every single thing you do. I've seen it. I've been there. I've experienced it, right? I've experienced it. So you don't want to do that. You don't want to stretch yourself. When our mentorship program starts out at $6,000, right? $5,999. And we've had people that we've had to turn away because in our conversation, we felt like they were stretching it too much. Like they were putting all their eggs in this basket. And we felt that, I don't always take the calls, but we felt that their situation, they weren't approaching it right. Are joining us. And we've had to tell people, look, you need to take care of that situation right there. The money that you're about to give us, you're taking it away from something that I'm not 100% confident you can replenish in enough time. And some people don't realize it, but they're going to put themselves in worse situations. And the reason why I do that, and I'm very careful to do that, is because I got to look at you every single week. So it's not like you start with us on one day and then you finish the program and then you're done. I got to look at you every week for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years. So if you've stretched yourself and you've got all this, and I've made these promises and I can't deliver, I have to look at you every single 3, 4 times a week, right? So when people come in, we want to make sure that they're not biting off more than they can chew and that they understand what real estate investing is about. We mitigate risk first. All right. We don't do all if you want to get riskier, I will hold your hand through that process, but it's up to you to determine your risk tolerance. And we make sure you have enough information to adequately determine what that risk tolerance actually is. And, anyway, that's my baby. See, I'm very proud of what we do. What's up, Jeremiah? I see you down there, brother. How many people in our real estate family do we have in the listening right now? Hold on. I see Jeremiah. Only one? I should send that. Oh, they don't know I'm on right now. Okay. All right. So I was talking about this morning. Why is real estate better than investing in the stock market? And people will try to debate that. I don't debate it. I just provide information. There's some people that are so married to one particular thing, which I'm not. Again, I go with the path of least resistance. I'm not married to one real estate investing strategy. Maybe I'll use the Burr method one time. Maybe I'll invest in a tax deed another time. Maybe I'll pay out of my exit strategy another time, structure a deal creatively another time. I think you need to know all of the real estate strategies so you can use which one is most appropriate at the time. You guys have heard me say before, when you are buying this education and you are getting educated on just one strategy, that's a double-edged sword. There isn't one single strategy that works 100% of the time. Let me give you an example. Most people have heard of the Burr method. Very, very common. You buy a property, you rehab it, you rent it out, you refinance it. Hopefully you've added enough value to when you do your refinance, there's some equity you can pull out, and then you repeat. That's called the Burr method. What a lot of those courses don't teach you is it doesn't work in areas where real estate is expensive or where the cost of money is expensive, because the rental income you need to sustain it in perpetuity is not enough to cover the final debt. So what do you do in those cases? You've got to be able to recognize that that's what it is so you don't get into something that you can't get out of. Hence, 4 data points, answering 4 questions. What does it cost? What does it cost to fix up? What's it going to be worth when I'm done? How much income can it generate? And then being able to interpret those answers to help you determine whether or not this is in your buy box, right? So there's so much that they don't share about real estate investing on social media. And I just see victim after victim after victim after victim. And I'm not putting $30,000 a month into marketing. We couldn't even, if 100 of you wanted to join us today, I'd have to turn away 75 of you, right? I wouldn't have to, but I'm not going to sacrifice the integrity of what we're doing just to get more people in. I've got to be able to scale up slowly and make sure everybody has the support that they need, because folks don't leave me. We are in it. We staying in the fight. It's like a gang, blood in, blood out. No, it's not. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go over some reasons why real estate. And if you guys have questions, feel free to interrupt me. I'm used to talking for 6-7 hours about real estate, and a lot of the forums that I speak on, if I stop, all the conversation stops. So just to avoid awkward silences, I would just keep talking. So you guys on Clubhouse, feel free to come up on stage, interrupt me. I'm looking at the questions on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook, and I'll stop what I'm doing to answer those questions. But one of the reasons that real estate is better than the stock market. Now, I'm not talking about. It depends on who you are. Now, there's ways to invest in the stock market that are far more conservative, right? Especially if you're investing in an index fund like the S&P or something like that. But I need I'm like JG Wentworth. I need my cash now, right? That stuff takes too long for me. Let me see. Otis James 1 is my IG. ODIS, and then the number 1 is my IG. But follow me on TikTok at 4 data points, because we're trying to blow up our page. And for this first few months, I'm just, I'm usually just talking to like 5 people, 5 people. It's like having a birthday party and nobody shows up. So yeah, you guys join us on TikTok. I'd appreciate it. If you guys are on TikTok, go ahead and share the room. I teach, so I'm not just in here, just shooting the breeze. Though I do clown around a lot. So at 4 data points is our TikTok. Otis James 1 is Instagram. So if you guys want to see me up here cutting up in my office, then you're more than welcome to. But don't discount the sultry sound of my voice for social audio. We understand that's why you guys are here, not for real estate, for the sound of this voice. No, that's not what you. Okay, all right, sorry. All right, leverage. You can control a large asset with relatively small down payment. In real estate, it's normal to use 75 to 95% leverage. This is nearly impossible in stock investing without significant risk, right? So you can get more for less, right? Another reason I believe real estate is better than investing in the stock market is it's an actual tangible asset. Real estate is physical, land and buildings. That gives me peace of mind. I can see it. I can touch it. It can't be manipulated. Unlike a stock certificate or digital entry, that stuff can be manipulated. If you don't believe me, go research how many trades some of these heavy hitters can do in a day. Those computers can trade they can do 40 million trades. I'm talking about a 1/10 of a second. And then here we are trying to log into E-Trade or Robinhood to do our little trade. Look, if we win too quick, too fast, they'll just shut the trading down. You think they do that for the big guys? So yeah, that could be manipulated. All right. Cash flow. Rental properties can produce consistent monthly income that often exceeds your expenses. Stocks may pay dividends, but yields are typically much lower than real estate cash on cash returns. So, I get it. And Warren Buffett makes a lot of money in the stock market, right? He's like the stock market guru. He makes a lot of money, but he's got a lot of money to invest in. All right. So, it is what it is. Appreciation plus income. With real estate, you can benefit from both property appreciation and rental income. Stocks either give you appreciation or dividend income, rarely both at substantial levels. All right. So just keep that in mind. I was investing in the stock market because it made me feel smart. I'm gonna be honest with y'all. I did. It made me feel smart. I wanted to be able to say, yeah, I'm in the market. It sounds cool when you have parties. Hey, what do you do? I'm in the market. And I would go on and I would actually do the research on, how to read different indicators, right? Moving averages and all that stuff. And I thought I was pretty smart, but I ended up taking everything out and just going back to real estate. Forced appreciation. Another reason I believe real estate is better. You can improve a property through rehab or better management and force its value up. You can't paint a stock and make it worth more, right? So you're at the mercy of all of those factors that determine what a stock is actually worth. And many times it's just public perception. That has nothing to do with real estate, right? Especially when you get into multifamily commercial, because multifamily commercial, investing in apartment buildings, the building is valued based on the income that it generates, more specifically the net operating income. And, I was overseeing just, $650 million in multifamily commercial real estate. So the operation side is just in my DNA. That's actually fun for me. So I can control my destiny because I can influence the income. I can raise rents over time. I can do what I can to manage expenses. I can add different revenue streams that contribute to the value of the building. There's a lot I can do. And in real estate, I can acquire real estate and pay out of my exit strategy, which means I can't buy a stock. If I buy a stock, I have to buy it, right? It's like, here's the money, buy the stock. There's no way around that, okay? Well, no, way around it for the average person. With real estate, I can get into contract. I can take the debt that I owe on the real estate and attach it to the property as a lien, borrow funds to make it worth more than I bought it for, and then leverage that new value to pay off all the existing debt, including what I paid for the property. And now I have an asset that's just cash flowing, right? Paying out of your exit strategy. By the way, that's what people are talking about when you see that clickbait stuff. I could teach you how to buy a house for $0. Yeah, all right, that's true, but it's not like you think. All right, there's a lot of things that have to line up for you to do that. All right, so control over the outcome. I directly control my expenses, upgrades, rents, tenants, and management. And I have systems for managing all of these things. We have something in our real estate curriculum called the Landlord Launchpad. It's everybody has access to it, but I don't actually teach it as part of the initial curriculum because I'll typically coach somebody with it for their own particular situation, not as a group. But I'll do workshops on it. And it talks about when you're managing real estate, all of the systems you have to have in place, right? What's your screening process? What's your renewal process? What's your marketing process? All right. What's your deposit accounting process? How to read a lease, how to understand what additional language you need in a lease, how to enforce occupancy standards, everything, how to address vacancy. All of those things are in Landlord Launchpad. So you guys, Jeremiah, you need to have that because I know you got your duplex just leased a short time ago. Well, you could always just call me too, but you know. All right. Predictability. Real estate markets are slower moving and more predictable at the local level than stock markets, which can swing wildly due to unrelated global events. All right. My apartment building is not going to lose value because the price of rice in China just increased. Period. All right. So you have more control, it's more predictable. Generational wealth, right? We all talk about generational wealth. How does generational wealth pertain to the stock market versus real estate? Real estate can be passed down through generations while maintaining cash flow and tax advantages like stepped up in basis on inherited property. Stocks, a little different. Financing options. You ever try to finance a stock? Well, I guess technically you can. You stock gurus can let me know how how that goes. But you can get favorable loans with low interest rates and long repayment periods in real estate. There's no equivalent leverage vehicle for stocks that doesn't carry margin risk. I'm not going to get into margin risk. But basically, you leverage it. But if the amount you've leveraged goes below a certain percentage, they're going to call you and say, hey, you need to put some money in this account. Margin calls. That's not a nice call to get. Or we're going to start selling some of your stock. All right. Asset protection. Properties can be owned in LLCs or trust or C corps to reduce liability exposure and enhance estate planning. Stocks are usually personally held. Stocks are usually personally held. What does that mean? When I go and talk to my tax people on the real estate side, tax attorneys and CPAs, I want to accomplish three things: liability protection, tax favor, and anonymity. If something is in my personal name, then I'm sacrificing anonymity. That also means I'm not structured correctly because now I'm exposed. Somebody can come after that if there's a lawsuit, right? Folks, I'm not qualified to advise on matters of legal structure. I have experts that I have my students consult with. So, I can sound like an expert sometimes because I've dealt with a lot of this stuff. And when we go on the road to do our workshops all over the country, we had the company go out with us. So I've sat through like 90-minute legal structure presentations, but I am not an expert. All right. Everybody needs a house, folks. Rental demand is constant. Now we're just talking about, I shifted the conversation. We're talking about investing in real estate versus investing in the stock market. Okay. People will always need places to live, work, shop. Housing is a necessity. Company products and thus stock performance can go obsolete. Real estate will not. Creative deal structures. You can't do creative deal structure when you're talking about investing in the stock market. You can structure deals in real estate with seller financing, subject to lease options, partnerships, giving flexibility stocks can't provide. And by the way, I teach how to do all that, right? All that. I always go to how can I get the most for the lease? If there's a creative deal structure opportunity in a transaction, then I'll coach my student through it so they can, reap the benefits of that. And I think it's really good learning. Volatility, reduce volatility. Real estate is not as volatile. Real estate values don't fluctuate minute by minute like stocks. This helps investors avoid panic selling and emotional decisions. When I was in the market, I was on E-Trade. I just had the screen up. It just stayed up. That's how paranoid I was about losing my little peanuts in there. And I'm like, it just, yeah. Anyway, real estate is more favorable for beginners. With the right education, and that is the operative phrase, with the right education, beginners can invest in real estate with little money down. Most people find learning real estate easier than mastering stock charts or option strategies. Yes, I was in that. I was one of them. They, I actually learned, I actually went to get in the stock market. So my attorneys on the real estate side, um, I met them because a company that did a presentation years ago that I went to. And I'm like, I'll nerd out to these when these multifamily seminars come to town. Now I'll go to them because I'm looking at who on that team I want to hire, I want to steal, right? And then I'm always looking to see how far ahead we are above everybody else as far as delivering education. And I went to one seminar, this was years ago, and my attorneys did a presentation there about what was it? I think it's something as simple as the Augusta rule. I think it was the Augusta rule, right? So the Augusta rule is basically you can rent out your personal residence for shareholder meetings, up to 14 meetings a year, and you don't have to report it as income, and it can be an expense to your entity. And I was like, wow, they saved me a lot of money. And where was I? Oh yeah, and then they had somebody come in because this company actually taught. They had a program that teaches you about stocks. So they taught us how to read in that seminar. They taught us how to read moving averages, MACD, right? Moving averages, convergence, divergence. And I was like, wow, this seems really, really cool. I feel like really, really smart doing this. So I was like, I'm going to start doing this. And so I got really excited about it. But then, the, what do you call it? The pandemic came and it was, some things changed. So I ended up pulling my money out and invested in real estate. Community impact. Real estate investors can improve neighborhood. This is big for me. You can improve neighborhoods, you can provide quality housing, and influence local economies. Stock investors rarely have this direct community impact. You guys heard me talk about how when I would go to development meetings, I would see how a lot of people in disenfranchised communities were getting the you-know-what end of the stick. And I'm like, geez, man, like, where are all the good people at? You guys ever wonder, where are all the good people at? Like, there's a shortage of people that just want to do the right thing. And maybe that's all in my mind because, the good people doing the right thing don't have podcasts. It's always the most ignorant folks with the podcast. By the way, everybody, thank you for joining my podcast right now. Sorry. So being able to impact the community is one of the driving forces for me. And a lot of my students have those type of passions where they want to provide transitional housing or help a particular group or develop low income housing. And there's a way to do all that. So I do teach that, but you can't do that in dealing with stocks. All right. No community impact. Your real estate is backed by real people paying rent, not abstract business performance, right? Real people paying rent, not abstract business performance, right? I don't have time to wonder what Tesla's doing right now, right? Like, I'm not going to meetings in the Tesla headquarters. So I'm at the mercy of, what's going on over there, right? Real estate is a little bit different. You can also, real estate hedges against market crashes. I'm sure you guys have heard this before. Let me see. Yeah, unless you are a trader, you shouldn't get into the stock market for short-term gains. It's not a short-term investment. Real estate can be. You can jump in and out if you need to. T. Lynn, that's a very good point. That's a very good point. I'll do a flip if I just need an influx of cash to go do something else. And the something else is typically acquiring a cash flowing asset. So I can always divert back to going to do a flip to make a quick 40 or 60,000. And sometimes I have to because I'm a real estate investor first, and the way we're able to keep our prices, under $25,000 and $35,000 a year, like them other folks, is because I use my real estate investing to put back in our company to improve our end user experience. So instead of me buying a Porsche, I'm upgrading systems and doing all these other things. So that's just what I like to do. It's trying to make the best company in the world as far as real estate education. So that's what it is. But hedging against market crashes, so real estate tends to be more resilient in economic downturns, especially affordable housing or cash flowing rentals. Reason being is because people are in lease agreements. And that income is predictable at least until the lease expires. And even when the lease is about to expire, if you understand how to manage vacancy, then you reduce risk even more because you can service that person or service that lease to make it so it doesn't hit you financially, right? It's not as big as a financial impact. If you know what you're doing, you have less turnover, and you can weigh whether or not it's worth to raise somebody's rent based on what it would cost to turn the unit if they moved out, and so on and so forth, right? You just have so much more control. And the last thing I'm gonna say, that was 20 reasons, by the way, real estate is better than investing in the stock market. The last thing I'm gonna say is scalability. You can scale your portfolio, use equity to buy more, refinance tax-free. You can even syndicate larger deals like we were talking about earlier. It's possible to do that in stocks, but it's rarely as systemic or predictable. All right. So I didn't know what I was going to talk about today, folks. I got on here. I made a commitment to go on TikTok as much as possible to build up that page and, try not to get my feelings hurt when it's just me talking to myself. And I repurpose the content so I can justify the time. But that was a conversation, a debate that I had earlier. Well, somebody else was debating. I just told them, what I told them. But that's how we got on that real estate better than being better than stocks. Any questions on the real estate side? Clubhouse, y'all are free to come up and just ask a question. Any real estate question. We had if we cut out, it's because we had outages going on this morning in the area. So if I cut out and just disappear, it's because that's what they're doing. We had a multifamily commercial workshop that I had to postpone because of that. So it is what it is. But if there are no questions, I guess I can just tap out. Thank you, T-Land. Oh, go ahead. Come on up. All right. There we go. Somebody, y'all can come up. What's up, T-Land?
Hey, good afternoon, Otis.
Hey,
nice to meet you.
Hey. Nice to meet you too.
Thank you for having me up.
Yeah, come on in. Take your shoes off.
I'm going to ask.
You want something to drink? You want some cognac?
I love it. Gracious host. I love it. Feel like I'm at home already. So I won't give a lot of backstory because it's not necessary, but I will say that I am real estate adjacent. I've been in property management for the past 11 years.
Yes.
But I'm one of those 9-to-5ers. And so the extent of my own personal investing has just been in my own personal home, which that's a whole nother topic.
Mm-hmm.
But my question is, I feel like I've been on the periphery for long enough, and I do want to make an investment. I actually purchased my home with the idea that at some point I might move out and make it, an investment or a rental property. But in the meantime, I am thinking about how can I kind of passively enter, but before I kind of really get my feet wet in the market. Mm-hmm. So I've investigated a lot of means of that, and two things have kind of circulating around. One is REIT, mm-hmm. and the other is tax liens. And so I just wanted to get your thoughts on those two particular investment strategies for real estate.
Absolutely. Can I be 100% honest with you?
Absolutely.
I'm your best investment, but I'm going to answer your questions. I'm your best investment. I'll answer your question. So the REIT, a REIT is great. So for those that don't know, a REIT is a real estate investment trust. And with REITs, those companies are responsible for giving 90% of the profits back to shareholders. That's really just like investing in the stock market. I know I used to work for REITs. I've invested in REITs, so on and so forth. Tax deeds or tax certificates, but let's talk about tax deeds. Tax deeds can be profitable, but not like you think. All right. So I'll give you an example. Let's say you buy a 3-bedroom, 1 bath. The family didn't pay their taxes. You got the tax deed. Let's say you bought it for $500. Let's go. Let's say you bought it for $20. Say you bought a tax deed for $20. Now you've got the deed to this home. You own this home, $20. Right? Now, you are now the new landlord. You have to evict these tenants. Right? These are now tenants. So the cost of eviction, That's on you. Okay. You also have to, while you're going through that process, you've got to maintain habitability because you're still a landlord. You fall under landlord tenant law now. You've got to maintain habitability. So whatever problems were going on with that house are now your problems. Now, most of these tax deeds are in areas where properties values aren't really that high. So there's a term called asymmetrical risk reward. And I'll sum it up by saying this. Most of the time people do tax deeds, they own the property, they want to borrow the money to fix it up, and they can either leverage it or sell it. But when they run the 4 data points, what does it cost? What does it cost to fix up? What's it going to be worth when I'm done? How much income can it generate? When they run the 4 data points, they realize that, oh, I can't get financing for this because of asymmetrical risk reward. That means we're not going to risk a lot just to gain a little. All right. Now, not only that, you are now responsible for any code enforcement violations for that property. So because they're typically over improved, right? They're typically over improved. What up, Anthony Glenn? Come on up, brother. Because they're typically over improved, it's an all cash situation. So if you don't have the cash to get the property where it needs to be, then it's going to be a money pit. But you got it for $500, and most people will say, well, shoot, $500, I'll spend that on dinner. So it doesn't matter. I'll lose $500. Who cares if it's a bad deal? It's not the $500. It's the obligation that follows it. Right? It's the obligation that follows it. So you may just be stuck with a property that you can't improve. But let's say you do have the cash to be able to improve it. Let's say it's a $60,000 rehab. So you pay that $60,000 and you rehab this $500 property. Now it's in better condition and you can get some decent tenants in there. Is it cash flowing enough to make the $60,000 worth it? Because remember, every time you deploy that capital, there's an opportunity cost for that. All right. So, and it's just, and by the way, I got a lot of students that come to me after they bought the tax deed. Right. And many of them, we're having conversations like, look, just give it away. Just donate it to a church, just give it away. Right. And, wow, because they don't understand it's, I'll look at it this way. These institutional investors, why don't they just go buy all the tax deeds? They know they're there.
Oh,
why not? Why not just send somebody down there and buy all of them? Well, because there's a reason, right? There's a reason. It's not always worth it. And understanding how to assess these deals, whether it's a tax deed, whether it's a tax certificate, whether somebody gives you a house for free. Like I've run numbers on homes that I was looking to purchase, and according to my numbers, they would have had to pay me to take the home. They would have had to pay me to take it. Right? Like literally, like, we just say that joking, or you couldn't pay me to, they would have to. This is the last one that I looked at. They would have had to pay me about $12,000 to take the home from them. Right. Reason being is because even if they give it to me for free, I'm still obligated to code enforcement. If I adopt a tenant, I'm still obligated tenant landlord law. Even if I have to evict them, I'm still obligated to all these things. And people don't realize that. So when I have people come into our real estate family saying, hey, I want to learn how to buy tax deeds. But my response is typically, I understand you believe you want to learn how to buy tax deeds. What if I can teach you how to buy just a regular house and pay out of your exit strategy so you don't have to pay up front? Right? So that's when I don't mean to sound arrogant when I say that I'm your best investment. But if I was your best investment and I didn't tell you that, wouldn't I be doing a disservice?
I mean, yes, absolutely.
Yes, because say it again. I didn't hear you.
No, yes, absolutely.
Okay, all right. I thought okay, all right. My parents used to say. Yeah. My dad asked me a question about. Well, I get what say again? Huh? Yes. That's right. That's right. but ultimately,
I think we were raised by the same.
Probably. Okay. Yeah, I got whoopings. Did you get whoopings?
Yeah.
Okay. Did they cuss at you?
Absolutely.
Did you get cussed at? You get cussed at when you got whooped?
On occasion, yeah. Yeah. Yep.
Hey, man. Yep. Shout out to Pops and Mom. Thank you for whooping me so I can actually survive in this world. It's his birthday today. I got to give him a call. But yeah. Yeah. So, but typically, what I'll do is I'll look at a person's situation and where they're trying to go. And then I'll see, why are you trying to accomplish this particular thing. And if it's just, well, money, I want to be able to support my family, it's a financial situation, then I'll teach you how to accomplish that the quickest. And it may not be the way that you think, right? If the goal is just to get to a certain dollar amount, then I'll teach you how to get there the quickest and hold your hand through the process and actually doing that. We got one program where we find your first deal for you. I've got deals on the table right now. If somebody joined today. Yeah. If somebody joined today, I could have them in a deal tomorrow. And we find the contractors and we arrange the funding. We do everything, right? And before, we didn't offer that to the general public because I didn't want people just buying that, using it like an ATM machine. I wanted people to get the learning experience. It's if you're serious about being a real estate investor, I'm your solution. If you're just kind of want some knowledge, just keep coming to my free stuff. I give more away for free than people sell courses for, right? Because I don't think it's about the information. I think it's about the practical application of the information and the support. The information, you guys should be paying for, thousands of dollars for something you could Google, right? So,
right.
So yeah, right. But if you want to make it a career, I'm going to be your best option. Let me not say we are going to be your best option.
Okay, got it. I would say less so a career, more so a retirement strategy. But at the same time, I'm kind of already in it, so to speak. And so,
you mentioned property management. How do you like it? How do you like property management?
I'm gonna be honest. I've gotten burned out on the residential side of it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of heavy lifting emotionally.
Yeah.
That people don't. It can be a very thankless profession.
Yes.
Lots of people, because it's very people oriented, and the home is the most intimate product.
Yes.
That you can sell.
And the manager's always the bad guy. Always.
Yeah, yes, always. And then when things are going great, you have to pull and beg and plead for people to actually tell other people it's going great, or that they love their experience. Mm-hmm. And you live and die by that opinion. And then a lot of people just assume that you're out to get them. Like, you know what I mean? Everyone assumes you're out to get them. Yes. Everyone assumes that, you're making a lot of money off of this, or you are just by working. Even if you're a worker, a 9-to-5 worker for a corporation or for a group of investors or whatever, that you are somehow also adjacent and getting rich.
Yes.
It's like there's a lot of assumptions people are making here.
Yes. I love it.
So yeah, that I will say that I've been in it, especially in Atlanta. Atlanta's like usually around like between number 3 or number 5 in terms of the rental market.
Yeah.
And so in the nation. And so you have a lot of volume in a, I hate to say it the way, I'm just putting it out there, red state, and people who are in real estate, like, what that means in terms of the law. So very flexible, very landlord friendly. And you've got a lot of jaded people out there who are hurt. And unfortunately, and as a renter, or a previous renter myself, and now I'm back renting for, like I said, a whole nother issue. Mm-hmm. So I both own and rent right now. Mm-hmm. It can be painful. And so it's, like I said, for me, I'm pretty sensitive, and I just realized I've kind of had my limit. So I in terms of, do I want to go back into the actual residential side of management? I'm trying not to.
Yes.
I was laid off from my company in 2023, the last company I worked for. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, it's like what I know, and I know it so well that I'm kind of like, yes. I would love to be able to kind of be like you and spread the knowledge and kind of help people navigate this new reality of, hey, rentals are now the new American dream. I mean, to be honest, you can't really, I won't say you can't, but, it's less of an aspiration for you to have to own in this today's environment. And so how do you navigate that? And how do you deal with these investor companies? and things like that. Because a lot of people just aren't protecting themselves. They're just not knowledgeable. And for that reason, they just kind of keep screwing themselves over and over again. And this is not, obviously it's your home, because it's the one place you don't want to screw yourself over and over again.
Right.
So yeah.
I love it.
That's how I feel about it.
I absolutely, I love hearing about the pain. Look, so my portfolio, I was overseeing 14,000 residents. 14,000. I have seen absolutely every, and I think 93 of those were Section 8. This is not including my own real estate that I own. This is when, in my corporate, in the multifamily commercial industry. And so when I hear you talking, like there's so many stories that I can, and one of these, part of it was a low income housing area. It was they were going to redevelop it, and it was rough. So I feel your pain 100%. Right, 100%.
Well, thank you. I really, really appreciate it. So yeah. I'm on that. Like I said, I'm on the cusp of trying to figure out what my next step is. Whether I want to go commercial, whether I want to be a project manager. The past 7 years, I've done the construction piece or the construction management side of a single family property management, but again, you can't get away from the customer service part of it. You cannot, especially on the construction side. It's even, be honest, the problems are bigger in some ways, and so you still end up having those rent conversations because the people feel like, oh, I paid this rent, so this is what I should be getting in exchange, and they don't understand that it's a single family home. So it has different needs than an apartment does. It doesn't get the same level of continuous maintenance that an apartment does. And, these investment companies just can't do it. They don't have the manpower. It would be impossible. Like the amount that you would either pay in rent or the amount that they would have to have in resources in order for them to effectively cover the amount of assets they're taking on would be almost impossible. And so you end up in a co-sharing type of situation, kind of like how insurance companies give you a medical plan and you have to pay co-insurance. Yeah. There's a co-ownership situation happening when you rent a property, an investment property. And so it's just a weird place. And so I end up being an educator, and a psychologist and a project manager, and I'm also facilitating, your repairs and maintenance and so forth. So, and like you said, you get into every aspect of people's lives. The people, illness, death. We've had murders, suicides. Just everything to do with life can happen in a home, and everything related to it. So it can be a very stressful profession on the management side of things.
Well, you know what? There's light at the end of the tunnel, and I guarantee you it's not a train. Many people say, I don't know how much longer I can continue doing what I'm doing. And they look at real estate investing the traditional way. It's like, do I want to go from what I'm doing to flipping houses? It just the thought of that seems overwhelming, right? But there are some things you can do on the real estate investing side to where you don't have to actively work on the investing. So, I mentioned before, I teach people how do you put deals together, right? How do you form a group of, and I restrict it to people you already know. I'm not talking about syndication or anything that's regulated. I'm talking about people you have pre-existing relationships with that you want to go in on and do something to generate some revenue in a relatively short amount of time, 90 to 120 days. Matter of fact, I did a workshop on that. Matter of fact, I have a guide on that now that I'm thinking about it, for my students. So, I encourage people, when you guys are determining or thinking about getting into real estate investing, just keep an open mind, because there's so many ways to make money, to the point where there was one point interest rates just kept going up. There was just a lot of uncertainty in the market. I told all my students, look, sometimes the best decision is making no decision at all. Let's go ahead and let some of the smoke settle on what's going on first before we, make any big decisions. And I always tell them, look, don't make a big decision without talking to me first. Now, they don't have to, but that's just me being protective, right? And in some cases, some income was generated outside of traditional investing, right? Well, let's put some money together and let's lend on this project. Well, we know how to underwrite projects. We're real estate investors. We can assess the risk. I can go ahead and take the lead on it. There's many times that I'll do something and the driving force won't be the money. It'll be the educational opportunity for my real estate family or my students. And yeah, so I just encourage you. There's a lot. You probably have one of the hardest jobs in real estate on the residential management side. That is like I have. There's a few properties of mine that I manage on my own. And the reason I can't have a property manager is because I make concessions. And if those property managers made those same concessions, I'd probably fire them. And a lot of that has to do with transitional housing and some other things. I have some property that I allow people that are trying to get back on their feet. They were homeless. Maybe they was drug addiction. I was working with the Salvation Army and housing people, for them. And there were certain things that I had to expect, right? I know how hard it is to get off drugs. I've never been addicted to drugs, but it's evident, right? So I had to be prepared to give people chance over chance over chance. I had to be prepared for people to steal some of my stuff. I had to be prepared for people to, be hurt, right? And I always gave preference to women and children because I have a limited amount of resources. So I had to prioritize them first. And I would give some of these people chances and over chance after chance after chance because they had kids. And the most recent situation was I had a conversation with and for me to have the conversations with the tenants and stop what I'm doing to deal with some of this stuff is very, very expensive. So when I have these conversations, yeah, I try to keep them quick. And I told her, I said, look, this is your third chance. And I can't want this for you more than you want it for yourself. And she said, you know what? You're right. You're right. Right. A week later, I was trying to get a hold of her right after that. Probably 2 days after that, I could not reach her and she hadn't paid rent. Come to find out, she went to her mom's house and OD'd, died.
Whoa.
Yeah. I had one situation where I was, somebody sent me a news clip of a drive-by shooting. I was like, oh, that's crazy. But it happens, right? Come to find out, it was my house. Right. It was my house in the video clip that was getting shot up. I was like, something's familiar about this whole. My contractor sent it to me. I was like, all right, he doesn't normally send me YouTube stuff or whatever, but okay. And yeah, it was my house getting shot up. I was like, oh boy. So I get it.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. No, that takes me back. I just had a flashback to some situation.
Yeah, and then both tenants were bad. Like I'm like, who is? Oh, this is just in a little small town where there's not a whole lot of crime, right? But I'm like, anyway. So I get it. But
they went original gangster on you.
They sure did, and just the look on my face when I saw you could see the progression of facial expressions change the closer I came to realizing that it was my house that was pictured in this video. I was like, ooh, yeah, that look bad. Huh? Wait a minute. I got a house ain't this okay. Yeah. Ain't this I don't know. And what do you do, right? Like I had the cops ended up calling me and there was all types of stuff. I also had a situation where this woman didn't pay me rent for 8 months. And I acquired this property so there's this woman was using her VA loan and she had bought the property for like $115. She sold it to me for $125, which was under market. She said, I just got one ask. The tenant has some health issues. If you could just not sell it for 6 months, I'd appreciate it. So I said, all right, I can do that. Right. So I bought it and I was basically breaking even on it. It was a single family home and 6 months. And then I talked to the tenant before that. Just making sure everything was okay, seeing if anything needed to be fixed. Come to find out, this tenant was terminally ill. And, so I couldn't just bring the property up to market, right? But I also couldn't leave it to where it was. So I asked the tenant, I said, well, what can you afford? And she told me, so I was like, we'll just leave it at that. And then I was like, I'm not going to put this woman out on the street. Like I just can't do it. I was even willing to, she was working with Section 8. I was willing to fly out to that state, take a 6-hour Section 8 class just to help her out, which would have been very expensive for me to cut out time to go do that. But I was willing to do that. And then she didn't pay me rent for 8 months, stopped communicating. This was I don't know what was going on. So one day I get an email and I guess it's from her kids. And her kids. Oh, don't worry, folks. This isn't a sad story. This is pissed me off. The kids emailed me and kind of gave me a hard time, calling me a slumlord, not a slumlord, but a greedy landlord, and all of this stuff. And I'm like, where are they getting this from? Like, it's just she hasn't paid rent at all in 8 months. Do they know that it's going on 9 months? And so I ended up having to fly out there, and I evicted her. It was that email that triggered me, and I went out there and evicted her. And it was just there's sometimes you got to have a balance, right? It's okay to do things for people, but understand there's two things that I hold dear when it comes to helping people. One, I want it to be my choice to help them and not the government or Governor Newsom forcing me to help them, right? I want to do it out of the kindness of my own heart. And two, you can still have people in tough situations that are still bad tenants, right? So, I was trying to have some compassion, and then, I felt like she was taking advantage. So I had to evict her, and then come to find out during that time, she wanted to have the bathroom updated, and she got which was, and this was before she was really, really late, right? But I said, okay, so I needed to give permission. Contractor comes out, says, it's going to be $7,500 to do what she wants to do. I say, okay, but some things needed to be fixed in there anyway. Like there was a leak, some drywall needed to be replaced. I said, okay, well, I'll cover $2,500 of it, and she can just pay the rest, because I would have wanted to fix those things for her anyway. So here's $2,500, you'll fix the rest. She never paid the contractor, ever. So she moved out. Contractor calls me or reaches out to me and it's like, hey man, like, what's going on here? And I was like, what are you talking about? And he told me what happened. And he had reached out to her and said, hey, you still have this, you haven't paid me. She said, oh, well, you got to take that up with the landlord. I tell you, man, you talk about times where I got petty, and you ever get so petty, you got to look up to the Lord and be like, I'm sorry, Lord. I'm sorry. But Lord, she's already terminally ill. Like it's not, you might, anyway. So yeah, I understand the pain of being a landlord. So, but there's hope. There's hope. And you're in Atlanta?
I am in Atlanta, yes.
Our last 5 deals were in Atlanta. I'm a broker out there.
I can see that.
Yeah.
And I believe I've heard you maybe speak on that before. But yeah, absolutely. It's been a long time since I've been in your room, but just so happened to actually have gone out to my own asset today to get a quote on some concrete work. So I'll just tell you this very briefly. I purchased my home during the pandemic in 2020. And so thought I was getting a great deal, which I still kind of sort of feel like I got a great deal. Okay. But when I purchased my home, there was a couple things, of course, you never know. You purchase and you're like, okay, I have no idea. Okay. And so I wanted to purchase a property that, not necessarily a distressed home, but a home in a distressed area on purpose, because I wanted to do a reverse gentrification, so to speak. Because Atlanta, it's known as a chocolate city, right? And historically, it just felt like there's people moving into neighborhoods that are historically, Black neighborhoods, just essentially. And I was just like, who better to gentrify our own neighborhoods than us? People who are, middle class or upwardly mobile should be in the city. So, I want to take advantage of that. So that's why I purchased my home when I did. It was under $200,000. And the interest rates were incredible. And I knew that that was probably once in a lifetime interest rate. So I was like, let me go and get in where I could fit in, because I everything lines up. I've got the credit score, I've got the down payment. If I wanted to put 20% down, I didn't, but if I wanted to, I could have. So all those things had lined up for me. The issue is that in 2023, a tree bifurcated my home, a very large oak, and almost took me out in the process, because I was actually in the house. And so I've been, unfortunately, I had to take it down to the foundation. And ironically, this is like the third time this home has been taken down to the foundation. Yes. I had no idea. So the property is a little bit cursed. I bought it from an investor who probably, to be honest with you, I paid 190. They probably cleared 100,000. I would not be surprised if they literally built this house for 90,000 because of all the things I found after I moved into the home.
Yes.
And including once I had all this issue with found a contractor that I thought I vetted properly, got a really great reviews for and blah blah blah, and then it kind of left me in the lurch for 4 months and left me guessing while holding my money, and that was a very uncomfortable place for me to be.
Yes.
So I thought we'd come to a mutual decision that we weren't in alignment, and then he basically took 20% because he said I breached contract. It's just been a mess.
Yes.
So I'm still in the process of rebuilding my home a year and a half later, or almost 2 years later. So yeah, that's been my experience, and I wish, had talked to you before all that.
Yeah, I was just about to ask you. I got 2 questions for you. Well, one's a comment, the other one's a question. First of all, I still need 6 credits to graduate junior college. So when you start using words like bifurcation, you sent me, you almost put me out with that word. So thank you for that. The second thing is, how much how on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you say? How much do you need me?
I mean, well, thank goodness I had home insurance. So, it did, contrary to popular belief, it did pay out. But the issue is when you have a mortgage on a home, then your mortgage
ladies and gentlemen,
company comes in and
I'd like
says,
to go back and restate the question.
Uh-oh.
How much you think you need me? Because I don't know if you know or not. I want to know what you say. I want to know what you say on a scale of 1 to 10.
How much do I think I need? How much do I think I need to complete the project?
No, how much do you think you need Otis James in your life? A 10, absolutely. A 0, none.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. What percentage would I say?
It's a 1 to 10. I'm not going to tell you either.
Dang. I don't put me on the hook because I know I'm going to say the wrong answer.
There's no wrong answer. There's no wrong answer. But I'll say this.
Okay.
You're going to know soon. You may not know today, but you're going to know soon. Look, T-Lynn, if you run into a situation and you need to, if you run into a tough situation and you reach out to me, just because you came up on stage, I'll help you through it. It's not going to cost you anything. I'll help you out of it. So just reach out to me. I
appreciate that.
Before you do any more bifurcating. No? Did I?
Yeah.
No? I
Okay.
Right?
Basically, yeah. I used to also use the word tomahawk. So, I think that kind of, literally, I've used tomahawk and people, because people really didn't think, they're like, you hear a tree goes down in most areas of the country, trees go down in your house. Most people think, oh, that means, it's touching the roof. Maybe you got a little damage on the roof and it's leaking in one room or a couple of rooms. No, this took, the insurance company came out and said, yeah, this is a total loss.
Yes.
Engineer came out and said, yeah, this is a total loss. It's no point. We're not trying to save any portion of this property. Then there was a portion of it still standing. They were like, nope, not even worth it.
What insurance company was that?
State Farm.
All right. Shout out to State Farm. They okay.
Yeah.
Because there's two organizations that are my arch nemesis, and unfortunately, I'm stuck using both of them. One is State Farm, and the other is Chase. Those two.
And I've got both. Oh my God.
Chase has really good security, because I know that because they've locked me out of my account so many times. I had to prove I was who I said I was. I had to go into a branch one time. They was like, "Yeah, you're gonna have to come in, sir. I don't know. I don't think we're gonna be able to help you."
I could write a dissertation in an ebook on what my experience with Chase has been in regards to this process.
But I will say Chase has very lovely people that work there. I like the people at my branch, and they're good people, and they do the best they can. It's just the world we live in. But anyway, well, I appreciate you.
But it's just been
good. Do you have a real estate license, T-Lynn?
I don't. I wish I did, but I don't.
Okay. All right. Well, you don't need it to be an investor anyway. I have a broker's
license. I'm aware
of that. I don't use it in Georgia. I have a broker's license in Georgia. I don't use it. So no worries.
Wow.
Well, you know how to find me. You know how to find me, so feel free to reach out anytime. You guys, I'm going to put a number in the chat on Clubhouse, And then you guys on TikTok can see it above my head. If you text, oh boy, here we go. Where the chat at? Okay. If you text anything to this number, 702 710 8030. 8030. All right. So if you guys write down that number in the chat, the link up at the top on Clubhouse is to my website, our website. I keep saying our website. And if you text that number, you want to learn about what we're doing on the entrepreneurial side, what we're doing on the Venture U side, which is our business retreat for people that are looking to start or scale businesses and want to do it all in 1 week with all the consultants flown in one house to get you started. I can send information on that. And people that want to be real estate investors, I can send you information on becoming a real estate investor. That being said, I think I'm about to wrap up. I had some kids were dropped off this morning and they're out there raising themselves right now. So speaking of total loss and State Farm insurance, so I don't end up on one of them commercials, I'm gonna have to go out and deal with daddy duty. Some of you guys asked about the multifamily workshop that was scheduled today. We had a bunch of rolling outages that was supposed to be done by yesterday. So we had to postpone it just to be safe. I didn't want, people going in, not getting all the value. This multifamily commercial workshop, I'm teaching people how to underwrite multifamily. It's not just a big sales pitch. We were planning to go for 3 hours, 2.5 to 3 hours to be able to do that. It was less than $50. Typically when people come to my workshops, they appreciate that how much they learn to the point where they want to join our real estate family. So most of our marketing is done by actually adding value first, teaching you something, and you can determine whether it's for you or not. That being said, I think Otis is about to roll out. Any last minute questions? I think I'll go to Clubhouse first. Thank you, Miracle Milwaukee Talker. Amen. All right. I'm so glad you're okay, T-Land. Absolutely. Me, I'm glad too. Last showing, Steph. I gotta connect with Steph. She's got a lot of knowledge. She's got a lot of knowledge. I'm gonna connect with her and see if she wants to do some rooms. As far as everybody else goes, I think we are done. And I got to be careful because I'm live streaming on a bunch of different platforms, and sometimes I forget to turn them all off, and my webcam will still be on, and I'll still be walking around my office, and somebody will call me and be like, "You ain't gonna put no lotion on your ankles." I'm like, "What? Huh? What?" They're like, "Yeah, your camera's on." That being said, I'm into the live stream. You guys enjoy the rest of your day. You know how to find me. Make sure, am I available for a call today? Yes, Tamara. I text you. I say, call me anytime. Yeah. Give me a call. Give me about 30 minutes and, I'll take it. I think I'm gonna stay on TikTok. I think I'm gonna keep TikTok open. I'm gonna go over some real estate stuff on TikTok. I'm gonna put my TikTok back in the Clubhouse chat, and I'm gonna teach some real estate stuff on TikTok for as long as I can. It's at 4 data points. At 4 data points. You can tell I can't multitask. At 4 data. I can't talk and type. All right, so you guys can go join us over on TikTok, and we'll go over some real estate investment strategies. I think I'll go over, I mentioned how to pay for property out of your exit strategy. So I think we're going to do that, and then we'll see where it goes. I probably got a few more minutes, and I'm going to make sure you guys get some value today. So if you